There are millions of people who feel that there are parts of their job that they're not trained to do. Write a strategy, manage a team, or sell to customers. And business owners are often looking for ways to outperform the competition. The Roadmap Alternative MBA is a training course which provides the real-world skills to grow a business. In small to medium-sized businesses, the challenges you face are different. To create high-performing teams, we need to teach these skills. The Roadmap Alternative MBA teaches these skills required to grow a business so that your team can add more value, aid their personal development, progress their careers, or for entrepreneurs to launch and grow their business. We also do this at a price which is affordable, using clear language delivered in video, print, and online classroom sessions. This is not just theory. This is proven knowledge from people in industry. Our mission is making business education accessible. Join us.
Hello and good morning. It's Friday the 4th of February 2022. Unbelievably, and it's only because I had an email notification say that I've done it. It's actually my 100th stream, which I've been doing since I guess I learned how to do it when kind of the pandemic started and lockdown, and they originally started in my kind of spare bedroom and then gradually built up and that kind of thing. But actually, one of the things that we talk about all the time is the need to almost be consistent with what you're trying to do. If you ever want to do anything, it could be sales, it could be launching a business, it could be getting fit, whatever it is. It's always great to kind of try it once, but actually if you can kind of stick at something and almost make a commitment to do something. I did that with live streaming, that almost once I kind of got the LinkedIn Live kind of account and kind of got that authorized, that kind of thing. It was quite nervy to kind of especially set up, especially when I was streaming from a bedroom kind of a year and a half ago. But actually it was just a bit of a milestone that I thought I would kind of celebrate now. So my name is Steve Pugh. I run something called the Roadmap MBA, which is a real world kind of business course. We're approaching 1,000 users now across 27 different countries. And what we do is teach the real world skills to help you grow your business or career. And that's based on the fact that especially in kind of smaller businesses, but it's true in a lot of different companies, you're often asked to wear different hats. So for instance, you might be asked to do your technical job, which could be as an engineer or as a lawyer or as a welder or whatever. But often, especially as you progress through, you might be asked to manage a team, start to work on business strategy stuff, promote the company, marketing, and lots of those kind of different things. Often it's very difficult to learn how to do them all. It can be very time, costly, isn't it? It takes hours and hours and hours to read one book, never mind hundreds of books, really kind of piece it all together. So what we do with the Roadmap MBA is that we bring it all in one place. So you get one really nice, easy to use kind of textbook, which actually you can, flick through in 2 minutes or 2 hours. It's designed like a magazine, so you can really kind of do that. We do basically this. So it's a live stream, which I try and do. I definitely do this once a week. I do a podcast, which I try and do once a week, but I can't always do that to depend on guests and that kind of thing as well. And then we do 4 Zoom live sessions a week as well, which anyone is more than welcome to join. And what we do is either work on and tackle people's own business related problems or stuff that they kind of want to talk about, or we kind of work through the course. And whilst we're still kind of getting set up and that kind of thing, the sessions are actually quite small, so it's quite a lot of face time, and hopefully it's really kind of good value and feedback from that. And yeah, essentially our mission is making business education accessible, that it's to both give people access to stuff, including for free if you can't otherwise kind of afford it, but also in terms of making really complicated concepts simple and accessible and relatable to you. And then likewise in the way that we communicate as well. So it's not just a printed physical book, because not everyone likes to kind of read via writing. Some people just like to listen or, join a video call and have it explained to them, and lots of different things. And basically what we're trying to do is tackle that gap in the market. And it's not to replace what universities and business schools do. It's actually to help people that wouldn't otherwise have access to it, if that makes sense. So if you can ever afford to go and do a full-time MBA at Harvard or Newcastle or London School of Economics, do it. You'll have a fabulous time, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot, and I know you will. But for me, 99% of the world's population, many of whom work, don't have access to that. And it could even be that even if they could afford it, and you're looking at somewhere between £10,000 and £90,000 here in the UK, the potential to potentially have to give up work, or there's lots of other hurdles that in the real world just, kind of make it more difficult for someone to learn. So what we try and do is, again, make it kind of accessible to you. And then in terms of the live streams, what I also like to do is, because I'm an entrepreneur, this is my baby, this is what I'm doing. A lot of people kind of talk the talk and they tell you how you should scale a business and all the stuff that you should do, but they're not actually doing it themselves, or they've never done it themselves. They're just spouting off someone else's theory. So I also like to share and talk about some of the stuff that I've done, and which hopefully, just it's the proof in the kind of pudding. And good morning, Chris. Yeah, if you comment as well, depending on where you comment, whether it's on my feed or various feeds or the company one, it should pop up here. Because of a real technicality to LinkedIn Live, you can't broadcast from the same account to your personal LinkedIn and your business one. So the business basically stream runs off a separate computer. So Chris, unfortunately, your message didn't pop up on the screen as well. If you comment on my personal one, or YouTube, or Facebook, or Twitter, or any of the others, it should do, hopefully. But I just thought I'd explain. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just, it is what it is. So what I'm going to talk about this week, I've got three kind of main topics. One is actually to do with how a lot of business concepts fit together. I was doing some work and looking at a guy called Terence Tao. And if you know who he is, or you don't know who he is, he's almost, if you've ever seen the film Good Will Hunting, he's almost like the Chinese version. He was a real maths genius when he was kind of growing up. And I subscribed to something called Masterclass, which is almost the similar to kind of what I do, but it's all educational talks about different people. Bill Clinton, Lewis Hamilton, they talk, experts in their field, talk about different stuff. And actually, he talked about a really interesting concept, which was to do with how, for him, at a certain point in his career, all of the different types of maths kind of came together and made sense. And I thought it was really interesting. So I'm going to talk about that, but in terms of business stuff, which I thought was quite kind of interesting. The second thing that I'm going to talk about this week is actually basically a process that a lot of kind of freelancers and business owners go through and go to. And it's at what point you actually start to bring in some help. So you might have saw the interview I did with Francesca on Monday, which was really, really fascinating. She's got a really successful kind of cleaning business. But when she first started out, it was just her. And then at a certain point, you start to bring in staff and build your team and grow the business. And what I want to do is just talk you through that kind of process, because it will be different for everyone. And it's more just to kind of share some knowledge and stuff on the topic. And last but not least is one of my favorite topics that I wanted to kind of talk about. And it's all about creating your business ecosystem. What I'm going to kind of explain by that is actually it's to do with any product or service. I'm going to take Apple, for instance. They started with just a computer, but it's since evolved into products, services, watches, you name it. They do tons of kind of stuff now. And I want to explain why that's a good idea, and also what we can kind of do for your business, and just to kind of plant that seed of something to kind of consider as well. Just before I jump in, it's 9:02 here in the UK. What are we on? So it's 4 in the morning in New York. Dubai, it's 1 in the afternoon. Tokyo, 6 p.m. Beijing, 5 p.m. And in Sydney, it's 8 p.m. in the evening. And with the roadmap again, yeah, we're in 27 different countries now. And that's different people around the world that have got the kind of textbook. And what I'm trying to do as part of the business is just start to learn and grow and scale and, acknowledge different communities and learn that kind of process. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of working on behind the scenes that actually I'll talk about in the future, but actually I'm just kind of working on. And something which I also like to kind of share as well is that in previous streams, I actually showed you on the course, we talk about something called lead actions. So these are the things which actually you break down the big goal that you want to achieve into really small steps. What is the lowest common denominator kind of step that you want to kind of break it down into? And these are things that basically, if you work through them, it'll help you achieve your goal. So what I did, I created my 2022 lead actions for me. And I've had that, I framed it. It's only a £3 frame from Dunelm, which I kind of keep on my desk. But actually the progress I've been able to make throughout January is quite good actually. But it's that constant reminder of all of the little things to do, which I know will help the business in the long term. And it does work. And it's just, if you're ever interested in, growing your own business or career, something we cover on the course is how, if you have a big goal you want to achieve, how do we break it down to its most basic kind of step? Then actually just track that and, have a reminder to do those things. And it does kind of work. So yeah, again, if you want to comment, please say hello, like where in the world you're kind of watching from. I always love it when people get involved, so I'm not just stood in the room talking for half an hour. But I'm going to jump onto the first one. So this is the example which actually came from the talk I watched from Terence Tao, who's a very famous kind of mathematician. And what we were talking about was actually in mathematics when he started to kind of learn his craft. You have lots of seemingly separate things like algebra, geometry, differential equations, and lots of different other types of maths, which all at the moment, when you first start to learn them, they don't seem to be linked. And the way that he described it, which actually I thought was really nice, good morning, Simon, was actually like mountain peaks. And what was interesting was that each of the main topics seemed independent when he first kind of started out. And what I thought was really interesting is actually, I think this is true with business. So for me, and when I kind of first launched the roadmap, I was almost treating separately marketing, sales, strategy, and management are all in many ways seen as 4 separate disciplines. So if you go to any bookstore, pretty much they're going to be not in a separate aisle, but most books only cover one topic. So inherently they get kind of quite complicated. And one of the things that was really interesting that he said that the more he developed his knowledge over time, it started like there was these separate kind of mountain peaks, and there was just a fog which was here, which actually he couldn't see because he didn't have the knowledge or the experience to kind of, understand it. But then actually, as he went through his career, learned more and more stuff, he started to see how they interlinked. And almost below the mountains, he said that he could actually start to see how these all intertwined, and he describes it like cities. So actually, as you learn more, you see that actually these two are connected, and so are they, and how it all kind of interlinks. And again, what I thought was really interesting using the city analogy is that then what you have in cities, you have roads. And it was almost quite a nice analogy for the roadmap is actually what we try and do is help link seemingly separate business concepts, but show how they can be used together, how they work together, and how they each make each other better, if that makes sense. Something I spoke about in last week's kind of stream, I'm just going to get a different ball pen, is actually it was to do with the basic compounding effect of if you kind of get good at multiple things. We use the example of Olympic teams. I know we've got the Beijing kind of Winter Olympics, but basically it's the compounding effect that if you get 10% better or 20% better against lots of different things, the really kind of impact that can have. And again, on the roadmap, the reason why we have, well, actually now there's 15 different modules which range from understanding your aims and goals, your personal brand, finance, you have business strategy, we have sales, marketing, leadership and management. But actually, if you get better at all of those, it has a genuine compounding effect on your ability. But actually, when you first start your career, it's not uncommon that I spoke to a chap this morning who wants to start a business in the next kind of 6 months. So what will probably happen is that he probably knows his main core topic inside out. So he'll be really experienced at something. But actually then if you're going to launch a business, where do you start? How do you get your first feel for marketing or sales? And then actually how all this great sales information from someone like Brian Tracy, how can that be used to actually on your personal brand? What even is a personal brand? So what we try and do on the roadmap is actually give you the city and give you the road map to really help you kind of piece it all together. But just for me, it was a beautiful example of someone using a description in mathematics to describe one thing. And actually I thought it was quite nice for business as well, that you don't need to know everything from day one. I'm still learning this, but then likewise, the more I kind of do my homework and learn different things myself, you get into the granular detail that actually when you work with people on specific issues, if you genuinely know something inside out, you can hopefully talk about it quite clearly and simply, but also with real world kind of practical experience. So it was just something I wanted to talk about, for your own business or career. Is there anything you've kind of at first seemed really complicated, but then actually the more you got into it, it's kind of got easier? I'd love to know. And then this all also gets chopped up and clipped up onto YouTube as well, if you ever want to catch up on any of the kind of previous concepts. So a very popular topic, which actually comes in and a lot of business owners think about, in my humble opinion, I think a lot of people do it too soon, is actually at what point do you bring in some help for your team? And actually, so if you want to grow the business, do you, how and when do you start building a team to bring in staff? Because obviously there's cost and there's time and there's management time and there's lots of different stuff. And it's that balance of where actually it's a harder decision to make than you think. But likewise, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on the topic. You might have your own. If you do, please kind of comment. I'd love to kind of talk it through with you. But actually, for most business owners, depends on the type of business that you have. The dream, or at least the theory, it depends on what you want to achieve, is to create a scalable business like, say, a songwriter now. The effort goes into writing the song, but once he has the digital file, in theory, that can be distributed or sold on iTunes around the world 1,000,000 times, and they don't have to do more effort to actually kind of, benefit from the business. That's what you call a scalable business. In some ways, that's what I'm doing with the roadmap. So I've done all of the hard work to build the core of the course and the textbook and the stream, and I've got a new website kind of coming, but you build the basics. And then actually the way that we'll look to grow that, I might still need help, but it will be to help grow and amplify the machine to really kind of add momentum to what we're doing, as opposed to, I'm going to use Francesca's cleaning business as an example, is that if she wants to grow that business, because inherently you need to pay staff to do the physical cleaning, because it's a physical job, you almost have to then employ someone to do that for you. And what I want to do is just talk about some things to consider when you kind of go through this process, but the same would be true for a copywriter, a marketer, someone that does business strategy, sales, just anyone that pretty much kind of works for themselves. The theory is kind of the big thing. So the first thing that I would say is that until you are profitable and making a clear net profit at the end of every month, don't do it. Most business owners, me included, you have the decision on, in theory that in time you would love to have a team to then do the work for you, and you kind of just go out and win it or whatever. But the issue is, if you bring in overhead, so you start to pay staff wages, office costs, computer costs, licenses, that kind of thing earlier, that overhead is going to build up, and the chances are, unless you're really profitable at the start, which is unlikely, it could kill a business before you even kind of get going. So my first thing would actually look is that, are you profitable as a business? For me, doing the consultancy, I'm now at the point where I'm kind of sold out, but I split my time between doing roadmap stuff, which is my longer term vision, and people that pay me today to do stuff, which is the consultancy. For what I do and for the consultancy, because it's quite difficult, I'm purposely not going to bring in a team to do that. But in theory, I could. So I could hire a graduate or hire someone to join me on the team. I win more work. They do it on my behalf. But then there's a risk of, is the quality going to be good enough? Is the client service going to be good enough? That kind of thing. But because my core business is going to be built around the roadmap, I'm purposely making that kind of decision. But related to that, so basically, if you are a freelance, say, graphic designer, always make sure that you're profitable first, and make sure it's not just like a blip. So actually, you're making money and your business is thriving, if that kind of makes sense. At least, growing, that your cash kind of generative. The next thing to look at, are you near capacity? So by this, what is interesting is that if you generally work, so I was in the office for 7 a.m. kind of this morning. I often work until 6 p.m. and then I stagger work for other people throughout the day, between different clients and different kind of stuff. That's about the point and the maximum where I'm probably, before Christmas, I was over capacity and it really kind of built up and I started to burn out a little bit and I was really tired. Actually now, I'm just on the cusp of I'm at the right level where I'm busy, but I do have a bit of breathing space, but actually that allows me to kind of stay sane and still work on some of my kind of lead actions and other stuff for the course. But what you really want to look at is, are you near capacity? Because actually, if you are a freelancer and you're basically selling your time for £30 an hour, say, to do kind of stuff, if you start to bring in more people, what that's going to do is eat into that, which I'm going to kind of briefly kind of draw out. But the whole point is to build a scalable, kind of sustainable business, and actually wait until you're at capacity where you're almost at bursting point and you're desperate for help, and then do it at that point. because then you'll know it's not too soon, because as soon as almost you make that commitment to employ someone, that's a major commitment that you almost want to make sure that it's nothing that you couldn't have done yourself, because actually that's almost more sustainable from a business point of view in the long term. It's completely different again if you want a lifestyle business where actually you only want to work a day a week and you want someone else to do all the stuff, in which case go fine. But I'm just thinking from a purely kind of profitability kind of point of view. So the next thing to do, I'm going to go to green, I think. Actually, I'm going to go blue. So if you're then, business is going well, you're happy with how things are going, clients are happy, you can sustain it, but actually you know that you can grow the business and do more if you bring someone in. I'm going to put those two down. What you then want to do is calculate your average charge rate. So often different clients pay different amounts of money. Some will pay more, but then also keep in mind although someone might pay you, I'm going to say, I don't know, £50 to do a job that is meant to take 2 hours. In theory, that's £25 an hour. In practice, it might take you actually 4 hours all the way through from going out to see the customer, talking it through, 2 hours doing the work, but then there's another hour when you hand over and then there's some changes. So actually it's 4 hours. But the point is, if you really know your actual charge rate, what you do, you need to know that, because likewise, if you think on paper that it's £25 an hour, but in practice it's not, it's more like 10. If you then bring in and you get to capacity and you bring in a staff member who you also then pay £10 an hour, you're actually making next to no profit. And it's almost having a real genuine understanding of your own kind of figures. So I'm going to use an example. So I'm going to say 30. So for everything that you do for different clients, it averages out to £30 an hour. If you're going to bring someone in the UK, I'm going to pick round easy figures just because it makes my life easier now. But obviously for wherever you are, say it's on £10 an hour. So new staff on £10 an hour. In theory, what that would allow you to do is, on paper at first glance, you'll make £20 per hour net profit if you can sell the job to someone else, hire someone to do it for you, and then actually, what you're left with is plus 20. And in theory, on paper, you could actually probably get away with that as a way to grow the business. But the thing that your people always kind of miss is that in terms of new staff, you always have management time, extra overheads in terms of national insurance, pensions, office space, heating, holidays, whatever. So actually that's probably 50% more. So it's probably 5 in terms of overheads. So actually it's not £10 an hour, it's £15 an hour, which is great if you can still sell it for 30. But this is why I was saying before, it's really important to really know what you're actually getting paid, because what you don't want to do, and this does happen, is that you bring in staff that you actually guarantee 38 hours a week for. On paper, it kind of makes sense, but the reason why it's important to make sure that you're at capacity, or there's an extra work that you can go for to bring it in, is that you might commit to someone to be full-time 38 hours a week on £15 an hour, which is your kind of cost. But actually, if you only have 20 hours worth of work per week for them to do, you're still committed to pay them, unless it's a 0 hours contract or whatever. But you could very easily find yourself in a trap where actually you're losing money, so you're no longer profitable, and actually your capacity is going to drop, because when you first started out, in theory, you don't need to manage yourself. You can just bash through it. So actually you can be really super efficient. And it's all of these little things that I just wanted to talk about, that actually, if you're a freelancer or a copywriter or a chef or whatever it is, look at what you can charge for what you do. Really understand, actually, are you profitable, that you're going to make a profit at the end of the year and you're really happy with that buffer? Hopefully you've got enough cash there to cover wages and stuff if nothing else kind of comes in. Look at your capacity and actually, could you handle, would it really help you out? But likewise, is there enough work for this person to do and still remain profitable? And don't forget things like management time as well. But likewise, when someone joins your team or your business or whatever, it will take them a while to kind of get up to speed. There will be mistakes. They won't be in your style when they first start and that kind of thing. Likewise, get all of this correct. And then, yes, it's the right time to bring in help for what you're doing. If you're not sure, my personal view would be don't do it until you're guaranteed that you're confident in what you're doing, that's the right thing to do, that it'll be profitable, etc., etc. Have you ever actually employed staff? How did you find it? You don't have to employ them directly. One of the options that I've kind of looked at is bringing in theory, temporary kind of agency work. They can still be really cool, good people, but actually you're not classed as the employer, which brings different risks and kind of benefits. Or what I do, I guess, for some kind of video editing and stuff, is that I outsource it to other people that operate as a business who do a fabulous job kind of for me, but it's based on invoices, etc., for set pieces of work, as opposed to an ongoing kind of number of hours per week that I promise them that I'll kind of do. If you kind of catch this, please feel free to kind of comment in the comments. They will kind of pop up on screen. And again, all of these kind of get popped up onto YouTube. And yes, I was going to say the one other thing that I forgot to kind of read out is that if you are actually going to bring in someone, make sure that they have really clear tasks and goals. One of the things that I think is really important is just so that everyone knows what they're expected to do, how and why and when for, because often this can go wrong actually if it's not really clearly defined what they're going to do. So it's just another kind of top tip I wanted to talk about. What time are we on? So we're on 9:20. Last but not least, this week, I'm going to talk about a business ecosystem, why it's important, and actually for your business, doesn't really matter what it is. There are different ways and different things that you can do to create one. And sorry, something fell down outside my door. I don't know what it was, but you probably didn't hear it. Anyway, so the business ecosystem. So most businesses have a core kind of product about what they do or sell. For someone like Ferrari, obviously it's a car, but Ferrari also actually sell merchandise. They sell hats and t-shirts and pin badges and probably tickets to events and calendars and clothing and you name it. But what they've done is built a brand. Apple, again, will do the same, where you will sell iMacs, Mac Minis, watches. They don't do cameras, but they kind of do on the phones. You've got laptops, you've got services, you've got credit cards, you have music subscriptions, home subscriptions, TVs, AirTags, iPads. You know, there's a whole thing. And what we're essentially looking to do is that you'll have your kind of product pyramid, and every business has this. So if you ever watch this, you still have this, but maybe just in a different way. So what you have, I'm going to stick with the Apple example because most people kind of understand it, is that you will have your super premium product, which actually is your most expensive. So I guess for Apple, just for a bit of fun, last night I was speccing up a Mac Pro, which was £50,000. They do the Pro Display XDR, which is, well, £5.5 plus £1,000 for the stands. That's £6.5, so that's £60,000. But it's a super premium product. Likewise, you could also argue that the iPhone is kind of up there because that's, you know, expensive. But the point is, you have your premium products. For any kind of freelancer or consultant or whatever, this is still true. So basically, my premium product is essentially when people hire me to do stuff for them. So I have 3 or 4 different clients that pay me on retainer every week and every month that I physically, go into their business, work with them to do stuff for them. That's the most expensive thing that I do. And actually, I have a limited amount of it because it's time. That actually, that's kind of how it works. At the bottom of your pyramid, I'm going to jump back. Well, I'll do me, I guess. You also have your free. And you might think, well, actually, do you do anything which is free in terms of a product or service? But the truth is you should do. You might not do, but you should do. And this could be live streams, podcasts, social media posts, anything that you do which adds value to your audience is a way for them to enter your ecosystem, get a feel for who you are, your quality of service, what is your quality of product like? Is it a case of, you know, does the lighting look good? Is the sound good? Does it feel like a premium kind of product? And in terms of an ecosystem, you offer free stuff. And again, that could be social media. So even if you are an expert in fire safety or health and safety or first aid, one of the things that we would always talk about is how actually, if you're looking to build a brand and a business, talk about the stuff that you do so that people see you as an authority or an expert on the topic, that then they trust you to buy your stuff. But they only do that if you put out free content to basically build your knowledge, experience, and that kind of thing. But again, this is all part of the same ecosystem. And then what you should also do, and I'm going to go back to the Apple example, is have tiers where basically you have free, low cost, medium cost, high cost. And the idea is that as a business, if you have different offerings at different price points, it allows people to enter your ecosystem at a level that they can afford and actually, in theory, upsell them over time. A good example of this is the car company Porsche. So they, in theory, free social media events, that kind of thing. Slightly more expensive would be merchandise, t-shirts, caps, whatever. It would be race days, events, whatever. Mid-level would be, they have, what is it, the Porsche Boxster, the Cayman, the Macan, which are exceptionally good cars and that kind of thing. But what they're doing is buying you into the brand to show you how good their stuff can be. Then as you go up, you can have the 911, and right at the top, the kind of hero, the hero product, which for them was the 918 Spider. But I know Mercedes have got the, what's it called? The Project One, the AMG GT. I forget that it's like the hypercar, 11,000 RPM product. But the point is, right at the very top, you want your hero product, which everyone knows you for. But you can create an ecosystem, and then what you're also doing is that on the course we talk about how you want to manage risk. So that if, as a business, or say for me, if I only did the paid consultancy and nothing else, that's a small number of people that can buy that product or service. So actually there's a lot more risk there that if I lose a customer, that could actually have quite a big negative impact on me. As where if I also had 1,000 people paying much smaller amounts, say £100 for something or £20, what you're doing is building multiple revenue streams from different areas and different sectors to build a much better business. And essentially for your business, it doesn't matter what you do. There are things that you can do to kind of do this. A prime example could be if you are a bakery, you might make the world's best wedding cakes. So actually a wedding cake, which could cost £1,000, could be your kind of hero product. That's what people know you for, and you make the best wedding cakes in the world. But again, there's only so many people that can do that, buy that, and actually, you know, okay, it's quite a niche market, but that's one thing. But actually you could then expand off into a brand of cupcakes that in theory hold the brand and the thing that you're really well known for, but actually you can make 20,000 of them and sell them. But then actually, why just sell the cake retail? You could have really nice coffee experience stores where actually you sell coffee or lunch and experience. But the point is, what you can then do is create different revenue streams that, in the example which just came to mind of, say, Starbucks. Starbucks also sell a massively overpriced, this was at £19 here in the UK, which is an insulated mug. But the point is, they don't just sell coffee, they sell the merch around the coffee. I think you can get t-shirts, you get mugs, you can get coffee beans, coffee machines, loads of different kind of stuff. Or the other one which sprung to mind was Krispy Kreme donuts. The people go there because of the donuts, but you're going to get some people that really love it, and you can get Krispy Kreme cufflinks and whatever. And actually our wedding cake, when we got married, we actually built it ourselves on a cake stand, but it was like a Krispy Kreme wedding cake, just tiered kind of donuts. But the point is, think about your business ecosystem. What is it that you could do? What else reflects the brand? Could be a different level of kind of product or service offering. But never forget to also consider your free offering. And that's a way for people to just get a vibe for you, get a feel for you, what you like, what's the guy like, what's he sound like, that kind of thing. Because actually what that might do, and this does work with the live streams, is that I put these out and try and add value once a week. They all go onto YouTube, and then people do get in touch to potentially buy me and hire me for different kind of stuff. That actually it kind of does work. And the point is, think about your own ecosystem, have a think about all the stuff that you could do to generate more kind of revenue streams. And if you come up with something really good, please kind of reach out and I'll use you as an example on kind of future stuff. So on 9/29, I think I'm going to call it quits on that today. I'm really looking forward to the weekend. It's been quite a tough week. Some of the other stuff that I've done this week, it was on my list, is that in past streams I've talked about risk is one of my big things. So in module 4 we talk about risk for the business, and actually one of mine was the potential to be sued just because someone doesn't like what I'm doing. So what I wanted to do, which I've now done, is create, I currently operate as a sole trader, but actually create a completely new entity for Roadmap MBA Limited, which now exists. But it's all of these progress things that most people will never see, but actually it's really fundamentally important for what I'm trying to do, because if I ever choose to exit in say 10 years time, a lot of those steps are things that I would need to do. So I'm kind of just doing it now. And then what I also need to do is, for that separate standalone business, set up a new business bank account, which is completely separate to my sole trader. One new QuickBooks account, a new VAT kind of code. And then the other thing I'm going to do again, which relates to risk, and I share this just because hopefully it might be interesting if you're on the same kind of journey, is actually it's asset transfer. So of the registered trademarks and assets and the ownership of the IP into the limited company as a way to help me, I guess, achieve my kind of business goals. Now, I'm also working with the guys at Bloom Digital on the website. And this is really kind of super special. We're going like very high end, almost Netflix kind of level for what we've got for the roadmap. I'm going to save that for its own kind of thing in a few weeks. Good morning, Deborah. And then one last thing that I want to talk about, which I can't believe I got, well, 35 minutes into this and I hadn't kind of mentioned, is actually one of my other big things this week was, you might have seen the mug recently, but I paid to advertise in Freelancer magazine. So it's run by Sophie and Angelo and a few of the guys, and it's basically designed for, it's worldwide, but basically freelancers, people that want to run and scale their own business. And as of, this arrived for me yesterday, it's my first ever paid advert for the roadmap. It's a double page spread. And so it says, giving you the confidence to succeed. But again, it's that kind of baby steps that for where I want to kind of take and grow the business. And you know, you've got to start somewhere. So I'm actually quite excited, and over time, touch some wood, I still have goals to advertise in like GQ and Vogue and some really kind of big kind of publications. But it's baby steps. You know, I'm only kind of a year or so. Actually, yeah, it's February. So I'm now kind of touching a year in on the roadmap. So to say where it's kind of at, I'm quite happy with that as well. And genuinely, thank you to anyone that's kind of given support or joined any of the sessions or just given good feedback on the course. That's really kind of appreciated as well. Deborah, it is always a pleasure to kind of chat. If you ever need anything, just kind of reach out. And then likewise, the next kind of classroom session, I have one at 12 p.m. today, which you're more than welcome to join. All the links are available right on the front page of the Roadmap MBA kind of website. Halfway down, there's a link that says live sessions. Just click on the link, it'll open the Zoom window and we can kind of interact and chat. And also next week, I've got a guest, Scott from WL Distillery. We're going to talk about his business as well on the podcast on Monday. So I'm going to call it quits there. Have a fabulous kind of weekend. Get some rest if you get the chance. If you've got any questions, anything, please feel free to reach out and I will speak to you soon. All right, cheers guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.